The Hair Kitchen, baby, and you know what it means. G. Marie gon' come around. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, let's start the show.
Hey, hair care hotties, it's your girl G. Marie. Welcome back to another episode of the Hair Kitchen and happy Black History Month. In today's episode, we will be talking about Black history facts that we've heard of with the spin on things we haven't heard from these innovators. So I want to take you back to a time, early 1900s. Black women are dealing with not having shampoo, conditioner. Products have started to come out. They're just hitting the market. Women like Annie Malone, Madam C.J. Walker have started to give us some of the things we need for our hair care. And you go in salons and they have little catchphrases that you hear women say when they come in to get their hair done. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but I heard it all the way up into the 80s, early 80s, late 80s, early 90s before it started to fade kind of to black. I don't hear it now in the salon like I did when I first started my career, but women would come in and say, "Gee, make sure you get my kitchen." And I was like, I got you, I got you. So those of you who know what get my kitchen means, I'm going to break it down to what it meant to me, because in researching, I couldn't find anything. And I was like, where did this, and you got nobody to ask, because the people who probably created this slang or this term are long gone, but we knew what it meant when women came in the salon and said, yeah, girl, I had to get my hair done, I had to get that kitchen. So the kitchen's in the back, right? In homes, and my grandfather actually had a home that fit the bill 100%. And it was on Capitol Hill in DC, 2 blocks from the Capitol. And there was a dumbwaiter in there that had long since been removed because there were no servants anymore. But the dining room was upstairs. The kitchen was downstairs in the back of the house. And if any of you guys saw that movie, The Help, remember the woman who needed somebody, the white woman who needed somebody, and she didn't have anybody. And when the woman from The Help came in, her kitchen was a mess. So that whole visual for me has where you could have the front looking good and nobody really they say hi to you walking down the street. They don't see the back of your situation unless they turn around as you walk by or walk away to realize my kitchen is in the back, and it could be a whole mess going on in the back in the kitchen, but the front gives the facade that everything is okay. I believe that historically, women who were servants and maids were in the back. You could present one way, but nobody ever really got to go in your kitchen to see what was going on. So they knew that things in the kitchen could get hectic and out of order, but everything up front, the parlor, the dining room, places where people could see and could present, always presented like it was all together. So I believe that's where Get My Kitchen came from. Y'all look it up and tell me, because if somebody knows, bring it forward, share that information, because that was my own creation in my mind from years of women coming in saying, make sure you get my kitchen. I want to know if anybody's left out there who would know. So hence you have the Hair Kitchen, the name I chose for everything that I do when it comes to hair, when it comes to the show, when it comes to anything regarding me in the hair business. The Hair Kitchen is like the kitchen. When you think about a kitchen, you have everything you need in there to bake, fry, cook, clean, serve. It's all there. Same for the Hair Kitchen. You have everything you need to blow dry, cut, style, shampoo, treat, take care of the clients and their hair. And that's where the name The Hair Kitchen came from. So it's the turn of the 20th century, roughly about 1902. And Annie Turnbow Malone is on the scene doing her thing across the railroad tracks for us. And it's all about hair care. And she creates this product line and a very successful business called Poro College, and it took up a city block. When I looked at the pictures of what Miss Poro had created, I was like, my goodness, we're talking the size of a warehouse. So there was manufacturing of her products going on in part of the building, and the other part of the building was the college where they taught skin care for African American women, hair care. You could go to Poro College and learn all about her products. I believe you could go to beauty school. You know, history gives us some facts that you don't know really were they really going to, were they really getting licensed, or were they just learning? But what I do know is it was an institution of learning. So I've enjoyed hearing the stories about her. I also read that she was very wealthy. Like, unlike Madam C.J. Walker, you don't hear about her wealth. It wasn't publicized the same way. It was very modest how she lived. And she also made a lot of donations to local YMCAs that catered to African Americans, as well as Howard University. So how about that? And that's near and dear to my heart because I grew up on the campus of Howard University with my mom in the dental school. Annie made donations to the medical school at Howard University, and she may have made donations elsewhere on the campus of Howard University, but that's one that they talk about in the history books. So now my girl, Madam C.J. Walker, she is such an inspiration and has been an inspiration throughout my entire career. I had when the post office commemorated her and put her on a stamp, they had a souvenir size poster with her picture, with the stamp on it, and then you could buy a small stamp and get it date marked for the year it came out. And that was in the 80s. I don't remember exactly the year, but I still have that. It used to hang on the wall in my shop and then at my school. Her story, though, when you read it, I've read different articles throughout my career about Madam C.J. Walker, and her business started around 1906. But I've also seen 1904, I've seen 1908. Just depends on whose periodical you're reading, what the dates are that they come or that they show you. And I'm going with 1906. And you know, her original name was Sarah Breedlove. I originally heard that C.J. Walker was working for a druggist, and that's where she learned to mix things. So a druggist in that day would be equivalent to a pharmacist. So they make the medications that are prescribed for the patient or the person that comes in. And they said she was a washerwoman for this druggist, and maybe she cleaned house too. You really can't be sure, but we know she worked for this person, and that's how she learned, by watching him mix different products and chemicals together. And her first product was a vegetable shampoo. Now, why would her first product be a shampoo? Because as a washerwoman, and like many other women of the time, we didn't have products for our hair. You would use the same soap. You figure, okay, this soap is really good to getting these sheets white and cleaning these clothes, so it's gotta be good on my hair. Well, in that time, soap had lye in it. So if you're shampooing or washing your hair with lye soap, we know what lye will do. It's a chemical. It'll take your hair out. So maybe that's why a lot of washerwomen wore their hair wrapped in bandanas and scarves, because if you're losing your hair, you still want to look neat when you go to work, and you don't want what you're cleaning or working with getting in your hair. But one and two, and then I read that she had problems with her own hair growing. And I'm going to be totally honest, when I looked at the pictures that we usually see of her, and the most famous one where her hair is down under in like a bob style, curled under, more of a mushroom from the 80s, late 70s. Excuse me. You can see her edges are a little shorter, or much shorter than the rest of her hair, because one of her products was a temple balm. I said, so having problems with edges is not a new thing. And if you improperly are using products that have lye, you might really affect your hairline. So that was interesting to find that out. But then the twist, the little known part that came later in my career, was when I found out that CJ Walker actually went to Poro College under Annie Malone, and then she created her own product line. So Annie Malone is 1902, early 1900s. CJ Walker, 1906. That makes about sense. That's if depending on how long it took to complete the program, she had enough time to go there, work, learn the different techniques, and then create a product specifically for her own hair situations, because that's where products come from. Usually we're finding we're feeling a need to take care of something that could directly be affecting ourselves or someone else that we know. So that was the little known fact. And when I found out, I was like, oh, because all I had ever heard, the majority of my career, was Madam C.J. Walker. And I'll never forget when I first heard of Annie Malone, I was like, who is this? She couldn't have been first. Well, technically, she was first. Now, I'm not sure why the notoriety went to C.J. Walker and not to Annie Malone, but they connect them now. If you pull up who invented the first African American hair care products, both of their names will come up now. That wasn't what was coming out, and what wasn't what was out when I first started looking into the history of where the products came from. So one of her first products was a vegetable shampoo, and she of course came out with, she had another product called Glossine or Glossine. She had about 8 products in her line, but the vegetable shampoo was first, and I'm sure it had to have been well welcomed into the community, because you could go from shampooing your hair with lye soap, or strong soap is what my grandmother used to call it, and Octagon was the brand that we used to see, that big bar of brown soap down by the wash tub, so you could clean your clothes or give them some extra scrub before you put them in the washing machine. So can you imagine going from that to now having something that's going to leave your hair feeling softer and more moisturized? I just can't imagine how it probably changed people's lives to now have a shampoo specifically for us. Hence why she could become a millionaire in her time, because she was giving the people something that they really needed and something that wasn't readily available. Welcome to the Hair Kitchen. Let G. Marie take care of your hair. Visit us on Style Seat for appointments or call 443-490-5777 and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. There's something for everyone in the Hair Kitchen. So we've all heard about the guy who invented the traffic light and the smoke hood, aka the gas mask, Garrett Morgan. But did you know he created the relaxer? I was like, that's a little known Black history fact. When was anybody going to tell me? But it was good to find it out, and then to look back over some of the pages of pictures of him. And I wanted to see a picture of him before, because he created the relaxer because he wanted to deal with his own hair texture. And in the time that he created it, which was 1913, men were wearing their hair brushed over to the side. You see it in some pictures. For example, Frederick Douglass's hair was parted on one side, kind of like the way I'm wearing my hair, and brushed over, but not as smooth. You could tell he may have tried to put something in to keep the shape, but he wasn't relaxing. Where when I see pictures of Garrett Morgan as he got older, he wasn't as sharp with his relaxer and his hair. Maybe he would let it grow out a little more. But when in the younger pictures of Garrett Morgan, I could see, oh yeah, he was putting, quote unquote, a conch in his hair. And I think the difference between his relaxer and the conch is his was a chemical formula formulated in a factory, where the conch might have been the one that you did with lye and mashed potatoes, or some sort of crude mixture that you could do yourself. Hence the scene everyone remembers from Malcolm X, where you see he puts this conch in his hair, and then the water's not on, and it's like, oh my God, we all know what that meant, because the burning is starting and he's got to get it out of his hair, and he rinses it in the toilet. So to find out that Garrett Morgan had invented the relaxer was like, wow. So, and relaxers have come a long way since then. When we first started relaxing, I know when I got into the business, it was the 80s. We had like 1 or 2 relaxers. One was Revlon, and it only came with one shampoo, the Apple Blossom shampoo. And I'm going to have to tell you, I did not like the smell of the Apple Blossom shampoo. And then we had TCB, Taking Care of Business, and that was one of the best relaxers I had ever used. But again, what was the gauge? Because I was new in the business, I just liked it better than Revlon because it came with a shampoo, a neutralizing shampoo, a conditioning treatment, and it had a hair and scalp conditioner or glossifier that you could apply to the hair and to the scalp, and it had a signature fragrance, and I love the way TCB smells. So I don't know if you guys or anyone out there has ever heard of Garrett Morgan's relaxer, but I've never used it, never heard of it. I just know he created it, and I did see the pictures. And it takes me and makes me think about, wow, I'm so glad he was the one that gave us a product that allowed us to change our hair, give our hair more manageability during the time to make our lives a little easier. And I think sometimes we're so hard on ourselves about what our choices are. So if you want to relax your hair, that's fine. You shouldn't be shamed for wanting to wear your hair in a relaxed style. That may be what is better or best for you. Just like the woman who decides to wear her hair natural, she shouldn't be shamed. It's enough room on the planet for all of us to choose whichever look or finish we want in our hair. So that was Garrett Morgan at 1913. At the end of 1920, we have the pressing comb being reinvented. So the pressing comb, it's so many discrepancies with the pressing comb for me personally. Well, me professionally, both professionally and personally, because you hear that Marcel Grettot, who was a French hairdresser in the 1800s, created. Now I know he was famous for the Marcel curling iron. That's the iron that we put in the stove, we heat it, it doesn't have any electricity, and we can curl hair, break the heat bonds, however you want to think about that. So now when you research Marcel Grettot, well, you're not even researching Marcel Grettot, when you research the pressing comb or the hot comb, it says Marcel Grettot created the hot comb. And I'm like, what? So to fine tune it, they said it was originally created, the hot comb. So you've seen the little miniature ones. If you haven't, they have a small one, then they have a regular size one. It was for grooming facial hair. So you could heat the comb and then smooth out your beard if you were someone who had curly or wiry or, just wanted to make your beard more manageable. I said, okay, again, his focus was the Marcel iron in France. And the French have always been very dressed as far as their clothing and fashion. They're kind of the leaders in the beauty and fashion world. So that made sense to me. Marcel Grettot, 1888, 1860 to 80, he created the Marcel iron. And they said it was originally formulated from blacksmith's tongs that you use to take something hot, a piece of metal, out of the flame. He used a nail and some tongs, and that was his first rough draft of a Marcel iron, because you could just hold the nail, heat it, lay him down in the fire, pick it up, wrap the hair around it manually, no clamp yet, and then you would form this beautiful curl. Makes sense to me. The straightening comb for that population, I guess you could have people from Paris or France with curly, unruly hair, but I digress. Fast forward. Walter Salmons, December 21st, 1920, he gets a patent where he had reinvented the pressing comb. And that's who I've always heard had invented the pressing comb. People were saying Madam C.J. Walker, but she used it in her teachings and her practices, but the pressing comb patent didn't come along until 1920, and she invented her products in the early 1900s in 1906. So when you do the math, it's like pressing comb, it may have been around, but she did not invent it from what I've learned. And Walter Salmons has the patent, so that's kind of where it starts with me. And if you guys know somebody else or have some more information out there about him and the press and comb, because we may have some historians watching, please do tell and do share, because I would love the information. So for all of us out here wearing hair pieces, wigs, we know wigs came out in the 1700s with George Washington. Everybody knows he wore a wig and had fake teeth. But so wigs have been around for a long time. But the weave, where it's in permanently, that's a different story. So these attached tracks and wefts and things like that, we can attribute that to Miss Christina Jenkins, and she brought those to us in the 1950s. Now, fast forward, it's the 80s for me. I'm on my way. I finished high school. I'm on my way to beauty school. I'm super excited about the start of my career of doing hair. And my cousin comes down from Philly, and she has all this hair, and I'm like, wow, you got a lot of hair. She takes me in the bathroom. We're in my mother's house. She takes me in the bathroom, and she was like, let me show you. And she has a weave. And I was like, hold on, let me see that. And I look through, and I see these wefts of hair attached by strings and like knotted as you go a few spaces over. There's another little knot in this special little form of the way the thread was in. And I was like, I have never seen anything like this. And when she describes it, she said, yeah, they machine attached this to my hair. And visually, I couldn't even picture it. Now I'm in the salon years later, and this is still the technique, because it's still late 80s, it's not the 90s yet, and people are still weaving. It's the late 80s, so people are still weaving using this is sticks, 3 spools of thread, and they attach the hair using it. And when this one particular salon I worked in, she did this type of weave behind closed doors. They don't show you, they not sharing with you. You want to learn this, you're going to have to go make the investment and take the class, because weaving is a very private thing. Because women who wore weaves then didn't want you to know they were wearing a weave. And I remember when I first learned how to weave, again, and I may have my dates a little misconstrued, because when my cousin showed me her hair, it's the 80s. When I finished, it's the mid 80s going into late 80s. And now I'm doing sew-ins, but you still laying tracks down and sewing wefts to them. It's not the weaving that we do right now in this day and age. It's a little different, because people, you sew in a track, you leave your hair out, you sew in a track. So some of you out there may have had this type of weave if you were getting weaves back in the day versus the weaves that you get now. And that's actually the way I have my hair weaved in, is sew in a track, but it's bonded down, and leave hair out in between, as opposed to, excuse me, as opposed to weaving laying your entire hair down or braid down and then putting your weave on. But Christina Jenkins brought that to us, and we can't thank her enough, because if she's still with us, I don't know if she's still with us or not, or if she's moved on. You guys, if anybody out there knows, definitely share it with us. But she revolutionized the hair business and weaving and hair for us. So in today's episode, we talked about quite a few things, and history has always been very interesting to me. It's one of my favorite subjects. And we talk about the natural hair. We talk about the inventors of hair products that have really helped us and revolutionized the industry of hair care for African Americans. And Christina Jenkins, she revolutionized weaving for everybody, because we are not the only ones who wear weaves. Because for years we thought, everybody who looked like Cher had naturally long hair, and come to find out, Cher wore wigs. I was like, that's not Cher's hair. I don't know how many of you out there remember Sonny and Cher, but I used to watch Sonny and Cher with my mom on TV when I was a kid, and I thought that was Cher's hair. That was not her hair. So I'm not saying she had a weave, but she had fake hair in her head. So again, Christina Jenkins in the 50s, for those individuals who were wearing weaves early, y'all have her to thank. Hats off to her. Then you had Mr. Morgan, who created the relaxer. So it made me think, okay, so in 1913, he creates the relaxer. And then the civil rights movement comes up in the 60s and 70s, and you have the Black Power movement where men and women were wearing an afro just to symbolize, hey, I'm here, this is how I look, accept me as I am. And we get some things done and we move on, and we start relaxing and doing these things again. So now here we are in the 21st century and we've gone back natural. So it's just been an ebb and a flow for us to say it's okay for me to be me, and and for us not to be hard on ourselves, because we are still fighting for our civil rights, and it's 21st century. It's how long we've been fighting for this, since 1865, Lincoln. It hasn't gone anywhere. Yes, we've made some strides, but when you got to pass laws to protect just being able to wear your hair the way you want to wear it in the Crown Act, and you still have states that are persecuting individual children for how they wear their hair and saying you have to conform, we know we still have miles to go before we sleep. So I hope you've learned a little, and maybe you've learned a lot watching today's episode. I hope that it inspires you, encourages you to dig deeper into what we've gone through, or what's available, or what we've done for hair care when it comes to the African American community. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of The Hair Kitchen.
It's the Hair Kitchen, baby, and you know what it means. G. Marie gon' come around. She gon' really lay it down. She gon' tell y'all all about all the things she knows about beauty in this industry. Everything you need to see. Hair color and history. Business opportunities. So you better listen up real good. The Hair Kitchen is in your hood. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, let's start the show.